live.
Yay!
We're going live. All right, you see this? So now we can see all the comments come up in here. Feels good.
Feels good.
Yeah.
You did it.
Yes.
So smart. You're so smart. As my grandmother says. So smart.
We're live on YouTube. It feels so...
Hello, YouTube.
Yes.
I'm on this side of things tonight.
Yeah, and hey, Diacritical. Oh, wow. Diacritical's on Twitch. It's working.
Twitch?
Yeah. So Twitch is
up. So for the first time, I can read the comments from this far away. So I'm going to be able to see everything you're saying tonight.
Yeah, basically everything that's on that screen is just going to be Twitch.
Oh, can we see YouTube comments? I want to see my YouTube people.
YouTube, we will see it
We'll
here.
see here.
Hey,
amazing.
Nate.
Nate.
It's all over the place. I'm going to tweet out a link. Periscope is not working tonight.
Periscope.
So join us on our live stream.
You should all be on YouTube anyways, because that's where the money is.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Support our friend. Support our girl.
YouTube, what was it? Steph will talk about what she learned during her years of working against domestic abuse.
Yeah. So much fun. Sorry to Hala. We were going to talk about our periods, and then everyone told us not to.
What do you mean? They seem so excited about it.
Everyone looked really thrilled to hear about IUDs and blood clots and vomiting. We love talking about our periods.
There's actually so much to say about periods. Hey, Paul. Hey, Diacriticals. Wow. YouTube is live too.
2 out of the 3 platforms. Sorry, Periscope.
Yes. Not on Periscope.
It's Periscope's fault. Not our fault.
So the thing about this is you can see everything. You can see, how many viewers. You can see everything on this.
This is so overwhelming. I don't know how you can... This overwhelms me. You can't see her. So there's the phone, which we're talking into, and then her laptop below it with all of this information, and it stresses me out to look at.
You can see, the analytics, while it's happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
And we're lagging. It looks like we're lagging between, what's up here versus what's actually streaming. I think there's, a gap. No?
Oh, yeah. YouTube is slower. Yeah, YouTube is slower. Twitch always has the healthiest stream, and I think it's because Twitch was made for live streaming. YouTube, Periscope also, but Periscope is not. It's also connected through a third party.
Got it.
But Twitch was just made for live streaming.
Right. That's the gaming thing, right? That's where all the gamers do the thing.
Yeah.
I know fucking nothing. Shit. Sorry. I'm gonna get you demonetized. I told you I was worried about this.
It's fine.
Oh my god, I'm gonna swear this whole time.
It's fine. They're more likely to censor other people before they'll censor you. Okay. They were censoring. The other night people were just last night they were censoring just random words
in the comments.
YouTube, the algorithm just censors people. I don't even know. You can say anything that might even be kind of related to anything controversial.
Oh, that sucks.
Someone said, penis is still, there's something,
taboo about saying the word penis.
Right. But there were even,
So talking about our periods would have been really successful.
Yeah, we probably would have been demonetized
real quick.
Yeah, we would have been demonetized on talking about periods.
Which sucks, because that's a normal body function, not sexual.
Yeah.
Right?
But the word rape can also get us demonetized.
Well, we
can say it.
I can't say what I want to. That's bananas.
Yeah, so if they say it in the comment, YouTube will automatically censor them. So basically what I have to do is I have to just read it out loud and not de-censor it.
Gotcha.
You're going to see it. It's going to show you that it's censored.
Wow.
But you can't de-censor it.
That's wild.
Diacritical uses a Twitch for Sweet Anita, Pardes, and Donut Operator. Alright. So they also censored Candace Owens, her name. Someone said something about Candace Owens.
Yeah, look at that.
Frank comments is censored.
Censorship in action, people.
So tonight's we're still waiting for viewers to stream in, but to stream in, right?
To get their act together.
Right, exactly. But honestly, like, I would do a Periscope about periods.
Do a Periscope about periods?
Because
I was a sexual health educator.
Really?
Yeah, on campus.
Oh my god.
You knew that.
That's
yeah.
So cool.
All I did was, and I took classes on this stuff. I talk about periods too much, arguably.
So you taught other people about, like, using protection and all that stuff?
Yeah, because people don't. It's wild coming to college because
you're like the college Dr. Drew.
Yeah, basically. And people come from, like, such diverse backgrounds of the, like, education levels, and, like, so people got, like, abstinence only education, right? And, like, we're shown pictures of chlamydia, and we're like, don't have sex. Right. Can I say sex on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then some people come in and are like, I grew up in fucking California. I'm so sorry. It's how I talk.
Each live stream is like an experiment. And actually yesterday I got a message from YouTube. I don't know if people are, like, reporting this because it is news. Yesterday I got an email from YouTube saying that what they're going to do is, instead of demonetizing people over stuff like this, they're going to let the advertisers themselves choose. So the reason...
Oh!
Yeah, which is really
that's
good
much
idea.
better. Yeah. That's a much better deal.
Because the reason why YouTube has been demonetizing people, or they say that they're demonetizing people, is because advertisers don't feel comfortable having their ads on certain material. So,
but they should let that be up to the people with the money.
Exactly. So now advertisers can choose if they're comfortable with having their ads on this or that, and, like, you can feel free to say whatever you want.
Okay.
But then you can just also expect that nobody's gonna want their ads on your stuff.
Got it. I will try my hardest.
But
we've had this conversation like 3 times now about why I shouldn't be allowed on your stream again. I'm so worried about, like,
you're fine. Each one is an experiment, so, like,
right.
I don't know, like, what they're gonna censor or not, but each time
I'll be your guinea pig.
It's like, now I know that I can't. Now I know that I'm not gonna uncensor people's comments. I'm just gonna read it out loud.
Gotcha.
But, yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
Let Steph curse. Agreed. I have a filthy mouth, and it's a problem, and I say really inappropriate things.
It just makes things more interesting.
It's fun. It's expression. It's expressive. Yeah. No self-censorship going on over here.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know. No one wants to watch just something G-rated all the time.
Yeah. And I can make things PG-13 real quick.
Yeah. Diacritical says we had abstinence only in high school, but they didn't teach about abstinence. It meant something else, at least back then. The other thing about abstinence in high schools is, like, it's good to teach abstinence, in high school, but, like, also, I mean, they just the thing is, like, we, like, in my high school, for example, it was like no one got the Gardasil vaccine, for example, because they're like, well, you're all religious, you don't need the Gardasil vaccine. And so, like, people would leave, and I've seen people who, like, whatever, but people will leave and get in trouble because they just don't know.
Right.
And so they'll get in trouble, our school books were just, they totally would rip out the entire reproductive systems.
Really?
From our school books, yeah. Even until 12th grade, like,
wow.
Entire high school, anything about reproductive system, even, like, just your organs, even just about your
just
period.
your medical
Yeah, they would totally rip it all out because they didn't...
Bananas.
Yeah, it's like they didn't want us to be touching anything that was, like, even remotely close to that, because their idea was that you're supposed to learn about sex and all that stuff from your kala classes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the bridal classes.
Yep.
It's like basically before you get married, which obviously everybody, except for like maybe 2 people in my class, everybody knew about what sex is.
Yeah.
Before, like...
But what you're learning is misinformation, right? My thing is, like, there's nothing wrong with teaching abstinence and, like, supporting people who are abstinent for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's not about... Sex education isn't about making sure everyone is having sex.
Right.
It's about saying abstinence is an option, and so is having sex. And whatever you choose, let's make sure you're educated and know how to make the healthiest choice you can.
Right.
It's a harm reduction model.
Yeah.
Not about, like, do this or do that, regardless of whatever that decision is.
And then people get ashamed and they don't go to the doctor.
Right.
They don't,
or they're scared.
Talk about it.
Well, actually, there's studies that show that children who were taught the proper names of their genitals, if they're ever abused, they're able to better communicate what's wrong.
Right.
So if you have, like, little pet nicknames, like, for your vagina, like, it's harder for you to describe to an adult that you're being molested.
Right.
Because you don't know the real names of these things. So, like, when you're confronted with someone who's like, what happened to you, you're not always able to literally say, like, this is what was wrong. It's dangerous. Yeah.
You're like, my peckle had a punchy.
God. Sure. For example.
And they'd be like, what's that? You had a pickle in your munchies? No.
God.
Okay, now I'm just joking about children being molested.
Great. Definitely getting demonetized
Don't get demonetized.
Oh my goodness.
All right. See, I'm like looking. I'm gonna make this bigger.
Yeah,
so I can see this.
I can't see a thing. I'm not wearing my reading glasses. I will never wear my reading glasses on this live stream.
Why? It's so cute.
They're so dorky.
They're so funny. I mean, they're not. They're not funny. They're not funny.
My point exactly.
They're cute.
Are they?
They're cute.
Are they?
They are. They're very cute.
All right, thank you. Still not happening. They're staying in my bag.
So Adam says that I grew up in the hole in the sheet people. The thing is, everybody knew about sex, you know? Like, I mean...
Also, very, very few people did the hole in the sheet thing. That's, like, not really a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't even think it's... I don't know.
I mean, it's, like, really...
I don't think people
do.
People do shave their heads. Women do shave their heads, but...
Really?
Yeah.
Is that real?
I mean,
I never wanted to believe that.
My teachers shave their heads.
I thought you were supposed to be beautiful, but just for your husband.
No. It's there's like a lot behind it, because it's like if it's kind of, first of all, it's a guard rail against like, you know, even one of your hairs being seen, so it's kind of like being...
But isn't that patronizing to men? I always feel like men should be insulted. Like, if I was a man and somebody was like, if you see one woman's hair and you're going to go off the deep end and you can't control yourself because you're an animal, I would be insulted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, men have control. Like, I fully believe that men have autonomy.
Right. And No, I agree. Men are not animals, and men can make their own decisions. They can do the right thing on their own without being...
The head covering thing.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you know, growing up when I was in high school, they would say, well, if you shave, you know, women shave their heads because the hair is considered, it's called a chatzitza, like, you know, in the mikveh. Mm-hmm. She actually worked in a mikveh, so she knows all this stuff.
I still work in a mikveh.
She still works in a mikveh.
I've been working in a mikveh for like a year now, over a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
I tried to show you.
Well, yes, she tried to show me at the synagogue where we went for Rosh Hashanah.
Yeah. Shana Tova, by the way.
You do.
Still Rosh Hashanah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Technically. I know. Yeah. I know you've desperately tried to erase it from your mind, but...
No. But, I mean, just for anyone who doesn't know what a mikveh is basically it's like a purifying pool for people who, it's like a...
Yeah.
It looks like a jacuzzi. It's like...
A traditional... It's like, think of baptism, ish. So it's like this holy body of water. It's a Jewish ritual bath. Traditionally practicing people consider it to be a purifying ritual. More like creative, modern, hippie Jews like myself consider it like a vehicle of transformation. So going from the mundane to the holy. That is the tool we use. That is the ritual we use. So it's not about pure and impure.
Okay.
Which has a lot, especially around Nida, which is the menstrual cycle. Women typically had to immerse after their cycle, and then 7 or 14 clean days. 7 clean days. It was a 14 total.
14 total, yeah.
Which carries a lot of negative connotation about like women's taboos being dirty and impure and untouchable, which is technically how the halakha is.
I mean, that's how it is. I mean, that's like the real thing.
Yeah, but women
are, can't, I mean, technically there's a lot more women can't do, but they tried to reform it over the time, to make it, that's like...
Some of them are reforming it. Well, I like to think I do.
They do, but the thing is that, like, knowing that the original thing was that women are not supposed to be doing anything when they have their period. They're not supposed to be making blessings. They're not supposed to be, in going to shuls, or they're just totally not supposed to be doing any of this stuff. Knowing that that's how it was originally, and the only reason that it's not like that is because we've, made it more palatable. That's something that makes me just like
cringe.
Yeah, it's just
totally.
Like, I can't even do the palatable version because it's just a way of sugarcoating.
Yeah, totally. I hear that.
Yeah,
totally hear that.
Yeah, and so that's what mikveh. And why are we talking about that?
I have no idea. I love how we're not going to talk about our periods.
Right.
We're talking about Nida.
Periods. And, they can't even touch. Men and women can't even touch during the couples can't touch during when they have
We love the tradition of showing your rabbi your clean panties.
Oh, yes. Yes. That's another thing. You have to approve with your rabbi.
Before you can have sex with your husband again.
Right. And he has to check, basically.
Yeah.
Which is panties.
Horrifying.
To make sure that they're clean and that you don't have your period anymore.
Most of the women I know who immerse monthly for their cycles don't do anything close to that anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the, in the ultra-Orthodox, I don't know if I could say modern Orthodox as well, but definitely the Orthodox that they still do. Everybody does it. And,
so when I work at the Addis Israel community mikveh, but when we were under renovation, we just totally, re-renovated. We went to Ohev, which is a modern Orthodox.
Okay.
Ohev Shalom, it's a modern Orthodox mikveh, and a lot of women use that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wanna go and not that I wanna go and.
You can do a vlog.
I'll
take you around. Do a vlog.
Yeah, I'll do a vlog. Yeah, wanna do a vlog?
Totally.
If you guys want, we'll do a vlog.
Of what the. I almost swore again. Of what the heck a mikveh is.
Right. I think it's interesting. People watch it. People really watch the religious stuff. Every time I did a live stream about religion, it got a lot of views.
It's fascinating.
More than the other ones.
I think your story is fascinating.
Thank you.
Amazing story.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Also, in general, people don't talk about, very religious parts because people think of Judaism. People think of Jews as it's a cultural thing. You know what I mean? People don't know.
The religious aspects.
There is a very religious sect of Judaism. It's very religious, and people just don't think of it like that.
Yeah.
But the whole... I'm just looking through. So basically, going back to a chatzitza, we were taught that the reason why women shave their heads is because so when you go in the mikveh, when you do the ritual bath, you can't go in with anything on your body, any
barriers between you and the water, because it's mayim chaim, it's like living water, it's holy water.
Yeah So it's anything that's on your skin is stopping the water from hitting your skin, so that's called a chatzitza, and they consider hair as a chatzitza.
What about your eyebrows?
Right. So the other thing is
doesn't even make sense.
Hair is a chatzitza, then what about your eyebrows? What about
Your pubic hair, your leg hair, your arm hair.
Right. And also, what about men?
Like, men also have to immerse in the mikveh.
Because they have beards.
Yeah.
And so...
big ass.
Right. And so it's like...
Sounds like sexism to me.
Yeah, I mean... like, that's why I didn't really take that as an answer.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
But that's the official, like, if... But I don't know. Maybe there's more that I just don't know about.
That's interesting. Well, that sucks.
Yeah.
I think there's so much bullshit. I'm so sorry.
There are people who might be watching this stream who do that. So, like, I probably don't know.
Immerse in the mikveh?
No, who shave their heads and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
To wear
like,
a fall.
Huh?
To like wrap their hair.
With a wig?
Yeah.
My mom, my sister wear wigs.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
They do the fancy ones.
Yeah, they wear nice wigs.
Instead of a tichel. The
Yeah.
Yiddish word for I never remember the Hebrew word.
It's the headscarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know how to do a bunch of the wraps.
Really?
I find it fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but yeah. Clearly don't wrap my hair. I'm not married.
It's kind of like a hippie look.
Yeah.
In a way. If you make it look cool.
Totally.
It's like you just wrap your hair and whatever.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there are so many similarities with Islam. I was literally just going to say that.
And nuns, Catholic nuns.
Yeah. And Catholic, yeah.
People like to, claim that, hijabi women are so oppressed. They're wearing, they're covering their hair, they're covering their hair, they're covering their hair. And it's like, well, so do Jews. And so do Christians.
Yeah.
A lot of Mormons cover their hair.
Really? Mormons?
And a lot of Mennonites cover their hair.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The thing is, those are the people who... I mean, this is so random.
Yeah.
But the people covering their hair are also the fastest growing populations.
Yeah.
Do you notice?
Yep.
The Mennonites,
yep.
Mormons,
I think Mormons
Jews.
do.
Mormons are very fast growing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but I think they cover their hair. I'm pretty sure they do.
Oh.
I don't know if they do or not.
Yeah.
Should probably fact check before I say something that's going to live on the internet forever.
Yeah.
So don't quote me on that. I'm pretty sure some Mormon women cover their hair.
There are people who will go through the thing and
fact check
and clip out sound bites.
Oh, great. Great. Please don't. Get a better hobby.
Fardy says Mormons don't cover their hair.
Mormons don't. Okay, I was wrong. Mennonites definitely do then.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know a lot about that. I mean,
only fundamental Mormons cover their hair. Somebody said fundamental Mormons.
Okay, only fundamental Mormons. And not all Christians.
LDS.
Well, not all Jews either. It's always only the most religious ones.
Yeah.
So it's always only the most. So it's, I mean, within all religions, I mean, not all Muslims cover their hair, not all, but it's always, there is an aspect. And the thing is, those people, that's another thing that I always think about, is people are, we're all oh no, this fundamentalist religion, this, that, but also, those are the fastest growing ones.
They're the ones having babies.
Right.
Do you know that's the whole thing about mikveh?
What?
That's a really important reason why Jews have been able to repopulate so fast. Because the days where you're not allowed to have sex with your husband are the days that you're menstruating.
Right.
And then the 14 days of the month where you are allowed to have sex with your husband happens to be when you ovulate.
Right.
So totally by coincidence, this cycle is literally about the menstrual cycle.
Right.
And this ancient science in a way was this is basically how you guarantee you're going to get pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. Which is why the first time you move to a community and to a new place, the first thing you build is a mikveh.
Yeah.
Because the most important thing is fucking your husband. Shit. Sorry. I'm so sorry. All night this is going to be a problem. I'm so sorry.
There's gonna be a video on the internet with basically a compilation of every time
I swear
drops the F-bomb.
Oh God. Oh my goodness.
It's gonna be
I'm so sorry.
It's gonna be I did this video.
Somebody clipped together a video because I've seen that video of you saying
yeah,
whatever it was.
100 times.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So someone's gonna do that with you.
Please, That would actually make my day. I'd make that my ringtone.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I think that's hilarious. Because I say it so often. It drives my parents bananas. But, yeah. Anyways.
Nate says the Amish have grown over 100% rate since 2000. They're almost 1 million now.
Wow. 1 million. Jews... How many Jews... Jews make up 2% of the U.S. population. And then 0.02% of the world population.
Ultra-Orthodox Jews are definitely the fastest growing among Jews. I mean, in Israel, they're fastest growing. I mean, now they're
because they're having the most babies.
Right. I mean, it's like they're starting to have more power in Congress and stuff, even though they're generally not, they don't tend to be very involved in government.
But when they are,
I mean, in numbers, there's a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's really interesting. We can just go on and on about this. But Steph has a lot of interesting things that she experienced during the time that she worked as, so where did you work?
Should I name the places?
Yes, if you want. Yeah.
I've worked at quite a few different places since coming to DC. The first place I worked that directly dealt with DV, which is domestic violence, was the Center for Survivor Agency and Justice, which looks very critically at the link between domestic abuse and economic justice.
Okay.
Because it's very, very expensive to be abused. People don't realize this. Financial abuse is a form of abuse where your spouse is controlling your credit cards, your bank, identity theft, your social security, your retirement, all of these things, like your paychecks. They might show up to your place of employment as a form of abuse to get you fired. You might literally depend on them financially if you didn't go to college, right? Or you don't have skills. There's that aspect. There's literal financial abuse. And there's also regular domestic violence. But the act of leaving an abusive relationship is very expensive. For a lot of women, especially low-income women, it's not possible to just change your locks, right? Because if you're feeding children, you are feeding children. You can't just go call a locksmith to get your locks changed, right?
Right.
So, like, there's so many financial barriers. It's hard to, like, if you're paying rent and you're locked into a lease, breaking a lease costs money, filing a protective order costs money, having a lawyer costs money.
Yeah.
So CSAJ did a ton of work really unpacking all of the ways of, like, the economic burden of surviving abuse. It was fascinating. It blew my mind. They have manuals, csaj.org. They have manuals you can download to read about all of this. And they were like a small but mighty team. They worked out of a WeWork. They were unbelievable people. Like, they were some of the coolest people. And they focused very specifically on survivors of color. So there was a racial justice lens, an economic justice lens, and a DV lens, which was really interesting. So that was one of the first places I worked. I worked at Jewish Women International, which is one of the oldest Jewish women's advocacy groups in the country. They do a multitude of things, but one of the things they do is talk about domestic violence. They work a lot on college campuses through Hillels. They have a whole program called Boys to Mensch, which is Boys to Mensch.
That's funny.
Which is all about, talking about unhealthy masculinity and how do we practice healthy masculinity. More camera on me, please.
More focus on
more
stuff.
Me, yeah. They have a lot of really great programs. They work closely with the Tikkun Olam Women's Foundation in DC, which gives them money to do some of this programming. They've gotten great grants to work on college campuses. They have, my favorite initiative they do is the library initiative. They literally have like over 100 libraries like that they put in domestic violence shelters, because children who go to these shelters are often overlooked. So they have just like loads of children's books for these kids that are in shelters. Like, that is their program. Like, they create these libraries and these bookshelves for...
And so basically the kids just grow up there?
Yeah, if they're in between houses before they can get permanent houses. Yeah, so victims, when they're abused, will often go to a shelter, a crisis shelter, a domestic violence shelter, a women's shelter, there are all different names for it, that are safe places, like the address isn't public, things like that, where they can go and live. There's a lot of controversy around.
So they all want to know what is unhealthy masculinity.
Yeah. I hate the word toxic masculinity.
Also, sorry to interrupt.
Go
already pointed out that Mormons don't cover their hair.
Great.
Just saying, because I don't know anything about it, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't know anything about it either. Thank you, Freddie.
All right, so continue.
I never use the word toxic masculinity. I think, first of all, it's insulting. I think it doesn't actually accomplish anything, and I don't think it really encompasses the problems. I think when we use something like healthy versus unhealthy, what we're setting up as a continuum. There are forms of masculinity that aren't healthy, that hurt men. What that means is we have room to grow, right? We have room to improve. We have room to better ourselves. We can become healthier, right? That's how health works, right? It's not a toxic or not toxic. Plus, like, I wouldn't want my if I was a man, like, I wouldn't want my manhood to be called toxic, right? Like, I think that's insulting.
Yeah.
I joke all the time about, like, how much grief I give men.
Yeah.
Men are the most important allies in the anti-violence movement. Like, men are the movement. Like, it's mostly women doing the work, but if we ever want to accomplish ending violence, we have to do it with men. And to alienate men only shoots us in the foot, right? It doesn't actually help us. So, you know, I talk about, we can talk about male victims of domestic violence too, because that's an important part of it, but men are crucial to this movement.
Yeah, we were just talking about male victims.
Yeah, it's complicated. So I don't use the word toxic masculinity. That's my little aside on that.
So Diacritical says the concept conflates being an a-hole with being masculine. It's censored, so I can't. So that's.
I see. Yeah, being masculine doesn't automatically make you an a-hole. There's nothing inherently wrong or toxic or unhealthy about masculinity. There are multiple masculinities, as there are multiple femininities. That's the whole beauty of being a human, is you get to be your own individual self. So there's multiple masculinities, some of which can be unhealthy. That doesn't mean all people who are masculine automatically makes you unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
And knowing that distinction is so important, because that means there are options. Nobody's doomed from the start because they're a man. Nobody's saying all men are abusive. Nobody's saying all men are a-holes. And if you are saying that, you're wrong. And also doing harm to the movement, I think.
How would you define unhealthy masculinity?
I think stereotypes. Stereotypes of, like, these big macho men who, you know, aren't in touch with their feelings and, like, are angry and aggressive. Can't communicate. You know, it's hegemonic masculinity. So the term hegemonic masculinity was coined by R.W. Connell, who's an Australian researcher who used this term to describe the structure of masculinity in our society, which is like a pyramid. So the top forms of masculinity, the men who succeed in society are the ones who exude hegemonic masculinity. They're white, they're straight, they're Christian, they're good-looking, financially secure.
So it's basically like a
privilege.
It's a type of
masculinity.
Okay, so it's like you're basically within this group of people.
Yep. A really important thing about hegemonic masculinity to understand.
There are some really abusive people that are.
Well, here's the thing. So it's a ladder, right? Everyone in this ladder is trying to reach the apex. Everyone's trying to reach the top of the mountain. You do that by dominating women and by dominating other men. So women can, like, and this is like patriarchy too. This is how patriarchy works. Women can play into the patriarchy. Women can be just as patriarchal and just as horrible as men. Men can work against the patriarchy. Men can do really good work about trying to undo some of this.
Why isn't it called the pyramid of abuse and power. Because if women are doing that too, then how is that?
Yeah, so this is a great thing. So that's just masculinity. That's just some forms of toxic masculinity. Of unhealthy masculinity, some of which people call toxic masculinity. In terms of domestic violence, where domestic violence comes in, we use what's called the power and control wheel. So you hear me say this all the time. It's about power and control. It's about power and control. It's about power and control.
Yeah, she does use that.
All the time. Because it's not about that situates the victim-perpetrator dynamic. So anyone can be a victim and anyone can be a perpetrator. Men can be victims, men can be perpetrators. Women can be victims, women can be perpetrators. And everything in between. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we have this wheel, it's called the Duluth Model. And it's this wheel that shows... Can I show you a picture? I don't really know. It's hard to describe. What?
I'm just reading your comments.
Oh my god. This is not Marxism. Marx was a sexist. But I am not a Marxist because I will never conflate my name with Marx. Marx fully believed that women belonged in the home. Like his whole conceptualization of the reproduction of labor depended on women reproducing men every night so they could go and work. Like, I can't swear, but Marx. Not a Marxist. Not a Marxist.
If you did swear, it wouldn't make a difference, because...
Fuck Marx. Duluth, Minnesota.
Jay says, have you heard of the matriarchy?
I have heard of the matriarchy. So the power and control wheel, real quick.
So Nate says 98% of Latin America is full of that sort of masculinity. And also the Middle East.
It's machismo.
The Middle East is worse.
Yep.
I mean, the Middle East is like the worst, maybe. And so why is it white?
In our that's a very good point. That is just how it works in some cultures in this country. That's not global necessarily, but in America, that is very much often how it works.
But also in America, are white men in general more abusive? In fact, I noticed that it's not like that.
Do you have statistics to show that? Because I have statistics to show it is that.
That white men are in general more abusive, or white women are more likely to go and get help, to go and report abuse.
That's an excellent point. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I want to do research into that. Actually, I'll look into that because I know the places I can go find that data for you.
Okay.
Because that's a good point.
She her brain is a computer, so she'll be like, let me pull that from my
Rolodex. Yeah. Yeah. I will say my favorite statistic to throw out is that 40% of all cops commit domestic violence. Disproportionate amount of cops beat their wives.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So that's my little anti-cop rant for the night.
I think we've got some cops on here.
Do you beat your wife? Do you know your friends beat your wives? Because that's what happens.
Diacritical says...
I'm not getting any money tonight. Nobody's going to send you super chats tonight.
Diacritical says, I don't like the alignment of characteristics. No, this is important. The characteristics with any gender, with any negative human qualities. Frez, aggression can be masculine or not. It can be good or bad. That is independent of masculinity.
Yep. Anyone can be aggressive. There are also, both things can be true at once. There can be aggression because people can be aggressive because we're all messy and we're human. And we can notice that there are patterns of masculine rites of passage, masculine ways of being, very gendered ways of interaction that have to do with gender and who is aggressive and to who. It's not like, I could go home and give you my stack of academic papers that show this. It's gendered. There is a gendered dynamic to violence.
So you're saying it is inherently male?
No, it's not inherently male.
But
it is disproportionately male.
Statistically male?
Commit violence to other men. It's men commit violence against men, and men commit violence against women.
But by calling it patriarchal or calling it masculine. Mm-hmm. Aren't we basically telling men that this is a male thing? I mean, aren't we kind of locking men into this cycle?
That's an excellent point.
Where they're like, well, this is how I'm gonna be because this is my fate or whatever.
Well, here's my thing. Just because that's how it was, doesn't mean that's how it has to be. Just because that's how it is, doesn't mean that's our fate. We all have agency. Men have agency, right? We were talking about this earlier.
Yeah.
To be good people. Men are good people, right?
So, like, I mean, for example...
But it is disproportionate. It's a disproportionate amount of men committing violence towards other people. That's, I mean, statistically.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's disproportionate number of men. But then we go ahead and we call the violence patriarchy or masculinity. We give it a gendered name, even though we know that it's not a gendered thing. And
it is a gendered thing.
But... not inherently.
Not necessarily, not always, but it is a gendered phenomenon.
So basically, you're telling men that that's
a possibility.
But you're telling them that that's a gendered thing. Yeah. The violence is gendered. Mm-hmm. So how does that not lock people into a mindset?
For me, it means that men, the way I see it, and the way that the men I work with who do this work, it gives them a choice. They can work against these power structures. They can work against these dynamics, right? Do you need to plug your phone in?
Oh.
We got the low power notification.
Yeah. Does it connect or... So basically what I do is I connect them.
Oh, cool. But it gives them agency to say, I recognize that these are the structures I'm working within, and it's my job to help fix them. For me, like, that's my job as an activist, right? Is to notice these problems and these issues, and it's my obligation to fix them and to remedy them. It's not saying that all men are abusive. It's saying there's an unbelievably gendered phenomenon that we're seeing where men are disproportionately abusive. Not all of them will be. Not all men are always going to abuse by any means, but that men have a better chance of preventing abuse, of working with other men, right? And being able to get through to other men.
Don't read the comments.
I can see them for the first time.
So I mean, this is something that I was thinking earlier today. A lot of the ways that we're treating, like, okay, I'm just gonna use this separately.
Sure.
When we call people Nazis online, I've been I've kind of tried to distance from the political scene, but then today I came back on and I saw that there was a lot of Twitter drama. I don't know if you've been following that, and there's a lot of within the right, and there's basically a group of people that are calling another group of people Nazis. And this person's a Nazi and that person's a Nazi, and it just became a thing. I mean, in general, in the media, it's become a thing where, like, everyone's just calling each other Nazis. And the thing is, like, and I've been called a Nazi. I'm Jewish.
But I've been called a Nazi. I'm Jewish.
Been called Nazi. So it's like, but when you're constantly being called, like, a white supremacist, Nazi, whatever, it doesn't make you not want to be, like, not that I want to be a Nazi, but it doesn't make me want to be, like, it just makes me alienated. It just makes me sympathize with all those other people who are called Nazis, maybe even who are actually Nazis. And it's weird to say that I'm sympathizing with people who are Nazis, but that's what it does. It kind of puts you in a box with everyone who's being called Nazi. Mm-hmm. And so and those are the people that you...
But see, I think that's horseshit, because, like, really honestly, like, for you, what you're saying, it's worse to be called a Nazi than to actually be a Nazi.
No, I'm saying that it just alienates people. It causes them
right,
to...
but if you can't even hear the words that, like, you're spouting white supremacy, like, if that's so triggering to you that it makes you be more of a Nazi,
it's not. It's not that you're spouting white. It's not. It's basically just being falsely accused. You know what I mean? It's like you start to feel like this is
But if you're so towing the line between white supremacy and not white supremacy and Nazism and not Nazism,
it's not. They're just calling anyone who's part of like who's friends with anybody who's whatever, like affiliated in any way with whatever, they're like white supremacists. I think the word white supremacist and Nazi is thrown around way too loosely.
I don't know that I disagree with that, actually. I don't know that I disagree with that. I think...
And it's like, it's not just that people are upset at being called that, because most people, when they call you that, like when people call you a Nazi, they don't actually believe that you're a Nazi. And you know that, and they know that, and everybody knows that. But a lot of people are losing their jobs over it. I mean, that was actually the thing that happened today, the whole discussion on Twitter, is because, like, okay, people call you a Nazi, and they know that you're not, and you know that you're not, and it's just whatever. But when you lose your job over it, and people have been losing their jobs, and that's why this whole thing was happening. I mean, this girl lost her job because she was in the same picture as a guy that she and him actually didn't get along at all. Jewish girl, anti-Jewish guy, okay, seen in the same picture. And they hated each other. I mean, they were trolling each other online and I know I'm getting kind of far-fetched, but this is just because it was in my head. Like, they were trolling each other online for, like, I don't know, for a while. And really, really viciously, too. And, like, then, they were, in the same place, in the same event or whatever. They were in the same picture together. And I guess they had a conversation where it was like, we're going to be civil, we're at the same place, whatever. And so this picture went online, and her boss fired her. And they put out a statement saying, our employee, was seen fraternizing with, white supremacists, and we don't condone this, and we don't and she's, like, we don't condone this, and whatever. And so, like, I mean,
I hear you.
It's like, and so is that girl now gonna, like, is she gonna, like, not want to have any sympathy towards...
Look,
like...
I don't have any answers for this. What I will say is that words have power. It is really, really important, more so I think than ever, that we use our words carefully when we label people. And we're very intentional about who and what we label, right? That is precisely why I use terms like patriarchy and feminism and hegemonic masculinity and healthy versus unhealthy masculinity. Because the whole history of humanity is men exerting power and control over women. That is history. I have my own thoughts and opinions on the whole white supremacy Nazi thing. That is like a whole nother conundrum. But I hear you. My thing is, if it's worse for you to be called a wife beater than to actually beat your wife, that's a problem. I think people in our society...
It's not that they're... It just makes the accusation lose its meaning.
Well, but here's the thing, like, but I don't know that that's true, because clearly the accusation holds weight if people are getting fired over it, right? Like, I think that...
No, they're getting fired over it, but it's like, it's kind of like, oh, well, she got fired she's being accused of it, so anyone else who's accused of it is like, well, whatever, it's not like a real thing. Everyone's getting accused of it. So it's like, I'm not even going to take that seriously.
I hear that.
Meaning, like,
I think the terms get thrown around too much. But I think there is truth to some of them, some of these accusations.
Yeah. Basically it's that it's
hard to compare apples to oranges here, like.
Well, it's the idea of the idea of labeling binding people to label that they might not deserve.
Well, but I've said that throughout this whole stream.
Yeah.
Not all men are toxic.
Yeah.
Not all men are unhealthy. Not all men are wife beaters. Not all men are a-holes, right?
But, like, using the term masculinity.
Because that is the unhealthy, that's the common denominator.
But we don't use that about femininity.
Because femininity doesn't hold the power and control.
Well, a lot of women are
yeah,
holding power and...
But it is so skewed. It is totally disproportionate. And that's the issue. It's the disproportionateness. Disproportionality. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, basically...
It's not all men and it's not all women. Not all women are victims. And to say so would be sexist of me to say. To be like, women are weak and fragile. Like, women play into power dynamics and power structures just as much as anyone does. Because we're all human. And we all live under the same patriarchy. It's not that every single person is XYZ because of their gender. It's disproportionately we see these trends of, oh, this number of men are abusing this number of women, right? Or we see, like, it's a gendered phenomenon. Statistically, like, it just is. Yeah. That doesn't mean all men do it.
Yeah. But, I mean, it still makes me, just using the word patriarchy, it still makes me uncomfortable because it's like, so we can still say that it's heavily skewed that men have been abusing their spouses, but it still doesn't deserve that the male word, patriarchy, is...
Why, though? Men are the ones doing this shit.
But when you say men are the ones doing this, I mean, there are plenty of men who aren't.
Right.
So it's like
but it's disproportionate.
Including people
It's totally disproportionate, though. Like, this is my thing, like, there are also men who do nothing about it. And I think being complicit is just as important to talk about.
But there's a lot of women who don't do anything about it either.
And I think they're complicit. But they don't hold the power. They're not the ones in control.
But the other men are?
Not as individuals. The patriarchy isn't upheld by individual men and women. The patriarchy is a system that organizes our society.
So what if it was just called something else, like the power, or like...
Because it loses the power. Using terms like the patriarchy focus the problem, right? It's a gendered phenomenon. You know what I mean?
I mean, I'm like really biased.
We got way into the weeds in this one. Yeah.
I mean, I've experienced a lot of very abusive women.
Yeah. Women, yes. It's a survival mechanism, right? For women to live in a patriarchal society necessitates that they also play into the things that are going to get them protection.
You can say that about men, because men are...
Yeah, exactly.
Men are, they were having to fight.
All men are victims of the patriarchy. The patriarchy hurts men. This is not about saying men are evil, men are the enemy. Men are just as much a victim of this system as everyone else. Because it's not fun to be like it breaks my heart to think that men
don't hear that though,
which is the problem.
Don't know that.
That's the problem. I think that's a problem in feminism. I do. I don't think feminism should be centered around men, because for once we have a movement centering women for the first time in history. That said, feminism benefits men. Feminism allows, in my opinion, in my very biased opinion, because I have drunk this Kool-Aid, right? Feminism is about giving men space to be men, to exhibit healthy masculinity, which includes being emotional. Like, being able to hug other men without having to say no homo, and being...
So why can't that be considered meninism? Or, is that the word for it? Why can't
No, meninism is men's rights, which is bullshit.
Well,
sorry.
Men's rights,
Men's rights is nothing.
Well, if you're saying that this is good for men, so why isn't there...
Because there is a men's rights movement that's all about, being dickheads.
Well, no, I mean...
and subjugating women.
I mean, men's rights encouraging men to be themselves and...
to being the most unhealthy forms of masculinity.
Well,
I've written papers on men's rights. Like, yeah.
Well, maybe it's just dominated by a-holes. But the whole idea of, you know, men can cry and still be masculine. Men can
that's not what's coming out of the men's rights movement, though.
Well, it's probably being run by shitty people.
Look, if there was a legitimate... Well, no, here's the thing. There is a legitimate movement for men's lives and bettering men's lives in the feminist movement. I worked for an organization called Men Can Stop Rape that was all about men helping other men, learning how to, like, do things like cry and emote and, like, feel things, right? And to have connections.
Alex says feminism is cancer. Oh my god.
Ooh. Felix got a little triggered in the comments here. Mwah. Thank you, Felix.
Alex, thank you for your super chat. Nate says, if you're on Twitch, then you will enjoy YouTube because YouTube is where all the comments are.
I thrive on this. I thrive on all your comments. Do your worst.
Okay. Alright, so we're going backwards. So
these stats are incorrect, by the way. A lot of these stats you're quoting, I'm just reading now, are proven to be incorrect because I also wrote a paper on the study that this was.
What diacriticals? Diacritical says 41% of domestic violence victims are men, while the CDC says 40% of victims
of abuse. Because men abuse other men. That's the key part here. So, it's men who abuse other men. Men are primarily victimized by other men.
So, I still don't understand why we have to call it the patriarchy. I mean, it's not an inherently male thing.
But it benefits men.
There are so many very abusive people in the world and in our country that we're not addressing. And we don't because it's offensive, and it's like you're basically grouping an entire group of people in one thing. But why is it that in this situation we can do that?
Because it's power and abuse.
Like, I know a lot of,
because it's negative. It's okay to point out who the abusers are.
And
they're disproportionately men.
I think also a lot of people, going back to the reporting thing, like, men are also less likely to talk about it.
Totally.
If they're getting abused.
Totally. 100%. Because they have this idea, and I work with male victims of violence, because of these unhealthy narratives of masculinity that they're taught, men have a harder time claiming victimhood because it's unmanly.
Right. But the patriarchy makes it worse because you're saying patriarchy. Women are usually the victims. So
yeah, that is a shortcoming of feminism.
So if you're a man who's a victim, you're not gonna want to come and be like, I'm a victim.
That is where feminism has room to improve. And I see women who make space for male victims. I always talk about male victims of violence because men are victims of violence. And it's often at the hands of other men. Not always. But there are and should be shelters for men who are victims of violence. There should be hotlines for men who are victims of violence. There should be hotlines for men who are victims of sexual abuse and physical abuse. And a lot of that is something that gets left out of the narrative that I am frustrated by and that I know other feminists are frustrated by because men are just men, and it's so different the way men present victimhood because it's so much harder for men to come forward as victims of abuse of any kind. And that is absolutely a shortcoming of feminism. That is a shortcoming of anyone in the anti-violence movement. If you ignore men and you don't include men in the work you're doing, you are doing it wrong. And I will fight, and that's a hill I'll die on, because men deserve the resources that women get, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. That's my little rant. It makes me really angry that it's, yeah.
It's like focused on, okay. Well, yeah, that's important.
Absolutely. And I hope nobody thinks that I don't care about male
Pardes
victims.
says, you will use a different phrase, maybe call it wickedness.
It is wicked. It's also patriarchy.
But, so the thing is, calling it patriarchy is basically making women the victims. And so, like, not everyone
It's not about...
not everyone is going to understand all the different implications. They just see the patriarchy is basically the oppressors and women are the oppressed. So if I'm a man who's being oppressed, I don't want to be that one person who's being the victim. I'm not going to go forward and be like, I mean, it's just, I mean, and in general, men are conditioned to think that men are the oppressors. And so...
They are.
Yeah, but like...
Not all of them on an individual level, but on a large scale, they absolutely are.
To think that... If you're conditioned to think that being a man in a masculine world makes you an oppressor or likely to be an oppressor, why would you go forward? Why would you come forward if you're a victim?
Well, I think that's a question that a lot of women in this movement grapple with.
Should we bring a man in the live stream and ask?
I think he's on the phone.
Hello. Hi. Do you want to be in our live stream and give your opinions on what?
What's the question?
What do you mean opinion on?
Hi, I'm Steph.
Is the
Nice to
patriarchy
meet you.
inherently... Well, what's the opinion on? What's the question?
Oh yeah, I'm a feminist and I've worked in anti-domestic violence fields, and we're talking about why it's called the patriarchy, and why we're centering men
Felix
and women
says,
in certain ways.
Should I jump in on this?
Would you like to?
Do you want
I'm
to?
Steph.
That was a bit of a joke.
Hi.
Adam. That was just more.
So,
what are your thoughts?
Diacritical
On
says...
white patriarchy?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I got a
first-hand experience on that.
I know all about it.
Love it.
Know all
Love
about
it.
Okay.
Would you agree that I don't know you, this is bizarre, but
Go for it.
do you think
So
it's
Felix
right
says
that we call it patriarchy and not just whatever? Like
not
power
evil,
structure.
Power,
evil,
right.
power, yeah. Because do you feel like it puts men in a box?
Yes.
it does put men in a box.
Yep.
I agree. So why don't we
This
all
is
do the
from a
work
man.
of like undoing the power structures that are putting men in these boxes?
Yeah.
Instead
So
Well,
Like-
why don't we not call
Should
it...
we really go down this road right now? But
Please. I'm so sorry.
much of the
Do you want to come in the...
okay, sure.
Look, sit.
Much
Get
of
up.
the things. Well, I'm not gonna sit. I'm just gonna wait. What are you eating over here?
Tea? It's like real
Here,
tea.
have a seat.
Okay, hi.
Yeah.
Oh, real tea.
Yeah. Like dried fruit tea.
Much of the, in my personal opinion, much of the things that happen, violence against women, the fact that there's a patriarchy system is partially connected to the fact that the things that men have to go through are not addressed.
Mm-hmm.
And
Totally agree with
because of that, it creates real fucked up shit in
Yeah.
men's heads.
Right.
Like it causes people to not deal with their mental health issues and
Emotional issues?
yeah, like you're not even allowed to talk about
But
those
see,
things.
my call to action then is for men.
Can you come in the shop?
Yeah, get
Here.
a shot.
This is wild. This is so strange.
Do you want to... Here.
My call to
Oh, I-
action is like, why can't we invite men into the work of being able to talk about these things? Instead of just more rigidly enforcing the fact that men can't talk about emotions and can't undo these fucked up mental problems. Like, why can't we say, here are all these resources for men? Why don't we invest in helping men?
We should, but I also think that women who maybe are not quite as, actualized or have got this stuff figured out actively reinforce those things.
Absolutely. Women can
By
enforce the behavior.
shaming men for
Yeah.
acting feminine or,
Totally.
so like that, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what the answers are, but
Yeah.
like everyone needs to be part of that conversation.
Yeah.
And yeah, like.
Well, I think like women. Not all women are feminists.
Yeah.
First of all, and women can and do uphold patriarchy and white supremacy.
Yeah, and also, even women who are feminists often use that as a platform to shame men.
Yeah.
Instead of engaging in dialogue.
I would say those aren't real feminists. But
well,
yes.
sure, but
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't know, it's a cycle, just like anything else, and it keeps getting a self-reinforcing cycle.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that's the work.
Yeah.
For me, that's the work in the anti-violence.
I mean, for
field.
me, it's just everyday life.
Yeah.
It's like checking yourself, no matter whether you think you might be right about something or not, and recognizing that like you haven't had that same experience. You haven't had the same experience that I have of like,
Totally.
you know, being, you know, shamed for not being hypermasculine or whatever, and like.
But you feel that compulsion to be hypermasculine. Yeah. I would like.
But like you feel a certain amount of compulsion to feel hyperfeminine.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? So there's certain things about being masculine that aren't wrong either.
Absolutely. I'm not saying
there's
that.
negative things about that come out of it.
Yes.
But I think that's more about like not actually talking about it. You know?
I don't think there's anything inherently wrong in masculinity or femininity.
Well, so my problem is calling it the patriarchy. Why do we have to tie this as a male thing instead of why do we have to lock all men into this box?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just painting with a broad brush, which is bad no matter what you're talking about.
Oh, I totally disagree.
So.
I think it's always a gendered phenomenon. It's almost statistically, disproportionately, historically, men hold power over women.
Oh, sure, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
that's patriarchy.
I'm saying painting with a broad brush, just about whatever you're talking about, leaves out nuance, and it makes it humans, the way humans think, we categorize things, right? Mm-hmm. So like when you teach someone that like all women are, you know, objects, or you teach someone that all men are, you know, only concerned with sex or whatever, then that affects how people think about the world and how they operate in it.
For me, I guess it's not like, it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like these dynamics of men and women being socialized to do certain things has existed before the word patriarchy existed. Yeah. Patriarchy is just labeling the phenomenon.
Sure, yeah.
That's how I see it.
I don't really have a problem with using the word patriarchy. Because it's obviously that's the case.
Yeah.
But I can understand what you're saying in terms of how, and that's what makes these things so difficult. Is it's like, okay, you can say this thing, but what are the results you're getting by saying that?
Totally.
You know, and so like that has to be addressed.
Result.
Right.
Yeah.
My thing is like, it's not about like saying that because we're calling it a patriarchy, all men are X and all women are Y.
Right, but most people are not developed enough to make those kind of nuanced separations.
Which I think is the work of feminism, and I think that's the work of people who do anti-violence work, is to tease out those nuances and to educate about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's good to meet you.
Okay, good talk.
I'm so sorry that we roped you in.
That's fine.
Thank you.
I could talk about this stuff all night. If you need any basil, by the way.
It smells really good.
There's some fresh
you walked
basil.
in and it smelled
wonderful. It
Yeah.
smells so good.
Good
All right.
debate.
Good. Thanks. Good night, guys.
It's good to meet you.
Okay. So,
we have our white straight male perspective.
all right. So, okay. All right. Any questions about domestic violence work?
We walked way down that rabbit. It's been an hour and 9 minutes. Oh my god.
Yeah.
We really strayed from.
Yeah, I feel bad. Anyways, so.
What else do you want to know? I feel like I barely talked about DV and DV work.
Yeah,
I didn't even finish listing all the places I've worked. Nate Murdoch followed me on Instagram.
Wait, what is it?
Our boy Nate.
Oh, Nate. So Nate is actually asking. Oh no, Mike says. I'm like touching it. Mike says, your side also says gender is a construct, so there can be no patriarchy.
That's not how constructs work. We are constructed to emulate these forms of gender. That's what construct means. Like, it's a verb.
I'm gonna construct a glass of wine.
Yeah, go for it. Construct that right into our mouths. I don't want to get into the gender debate. That is a multi-part live stream.
Here, well, let me ask you my personal questions. What, like, so, I mean, actually, we didn't even get to the stuff that but anyways, so
we can keep going.
We were talking about how,
Is that your mom?
Yeah, I'm gonna call her back. So we were talking about how when people are in an abusive relationship, they're not likely, men or women, they're not, I'll call her back. They're not likely to call for help. And if they do, it's like, if you're a friend, if they do, it's really hard to get them out of it. Like, they might come and then they'll go back into that abusive relationship, and then it's like, and it's really hard for you or a friend or anyone who cares about them to try and help them get out without them pulling away.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to just talk about the dynamics of?
Yeah. And we have a limited time.
Okay.
I think this is
real quick. It is very, very difficult to leave an abusive relationship. First of all, it's hard to recognize when you're in one, because it's not like at date 3 he clocks you in the face, right? Or she. There are lots of, it's called escalation. So when you enter an abusive relationship, it's abusive because it ensnares you slowly. It's like falling into quicksand. It's like a red flag here, a red flag there. And if you don't know the signs, it's very easy to be talked out of them, right? So like, I threw a glass. It was just a moment of rage, or like, it slipped or whatever. Or like, I just lost my temper this one time. I love you so much, right? Let me make up for it. So it traps you in. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Okay.
Sorry if you're experiencing buffering.
Yeah.
So it's, should I keep going?
Yeah.
I can wrap it up real quick.
Yeah.
But so it's important that you understand the signs of abuse, not only for yourself, but for people around you, for your friends and loved ones, and to be able to communicate what they are, right? It's never about telling a victim what to do, because they usually won't listen. And second of all, a very common abuse tactic is for the perpetrator to manipulate the victim into thinking that her friends, or like their network, right, are not good people. So like turning the victim away from their friends and cutting off that,
or his friends,
right? So like cutting away those support systems, cutting away the ties to the outside world, making the victim totally dependent on the perpetrator, is very, very common, and very dangerous, because that means that the victim or the perpetrator has more access to the victim, and the victim has to become more dependent on the perpetrator, which leads to more abuse, shockingly. Leaving domestic violence situations is incredibly dangerous. These are all gendered statistics,
so
but
what do you have to do if your friend or someone you care about
mm-hmm.
is in an abusive relationship, and sometimes you're not even close enough with them to be like, hey, you should get out.
Mm-hmm. The way I do it is I say like, hey, I noticed XY, like this person is saying these things to you, like that hurt me to hear because I care about you. Yeah. Or like that made me uncomfortable. Like, is that how they normally speak to you? Like,
but
so
like,
it's like
also
broaching those.
About, like, so if you're a guy and it's a girl in an abusive relationship, or you're a girl and it's a guy in an abusive relationship, going and talking to that guy might seem like you have an ulterior motive, like you want to get with them, and that also causes distrust.
Yeah, that's definitely a dynamic. I think it's just saying like, it's also like saying like, how are you doing? How are you two doing together?
Okay.
So it's like you can keep it super general and like lightly probe. But just saying like, I'm thinking of you, if you ever want to come get coffee again, or like, do you want to have a sleepover one night or something? Like if
Okay.
whatever. You know, there's like making sure that the victim understands that you are there.
Okay.
Even if it's not for like, you're my escape plan necessarily, but like, oh, you are somebody I can have a social relationship with, so you're not totally isolated. Because that isolation is really, really important to watch out for. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think about this often. 1 second. Level Up says, if you were in a partnership of violence with me, I would take it like a champ. If I was the violent one, sorry, Steph.
I'm not reading the comments. This is also not the worst thing I've seen, so.
Yeah, no, Steph.
I'm a champ at this.
It's a love-hate relationship.
Sure. Sure it is.
Steph is a very strong backbone. She's
outed online, like I've been called all sorts of things.
I have a lot of respect for Steph because she's strong in the thing that she believes, and she, you know, she's gonna stand up for it. Like, she's not gonna be like, oh no, like, you know, I'm worried that someone might not like it or whatever.
Yeah, goodbye. Look. Shit. Sorry.
So,
oh my God.
I would encourage everybody to be like Steph. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but I always love when people put, like, mean comments as if that's gonna hurt my feelings. Oh. Get my feelings hurt because some men on the internet have nothing better to do than hurt my feelings.
Well,
just send me money. Just send me the money.
Well, there are a lot of men on this stream.
Are there?
Are not abusive.
That is true. Y'all are good guys.
And thank you.
I'm on the YouTube comments. I'm usually, whenever I'm, watching this, just preaching evil. That's gonna be on my tombstone. Preached evil. Some of these are really funny.
Nate says the same guys who insult Steph would beg her for her number in person.
It's probably true. But I'm sorry to say I have a girlfriend. So this is hysterical. These comments are really funny, actually. I'm amused by most of these.
But the truth is, I mean, you've come on here before. People have very much hated things that Steph has said before, but
I like this. I like you guys.
But they came back.
Yeah.
So it's right now. Right now you're strongly disagreeing with Steph, but you're not. I think people.
Oh, jeez. I'm not repeating that. Lesbian couples are the cutest. Thanks, Jay. I'm not a lesbian, but thank you.
So Felix, your comment got censored.
Don't read it. I have nothing to say about that one.
Paul says, I disagree with most of what Steph says, but she's definitely not a snowflake, and I respect.
My favorite meme group on Facebook is Conservatives Are the Snowflakes, and it's just a bunch of, like, looking at examples of conservatives being the ones who were easily triggered, and it brings me joy. Not saying that all of you were like that, but thank you. I like to think I have a little bit of a backbone. Carpet muncher. Oh my god.
Okay. All right.
These are wild.
Yeah. So I mean, there's.
I love this community. I want to say I really like the YouTube community. It's been a long time since I've gotten to watch a stream because I fall asleep so early, but.
Sorry.
No. It's not you. It's me not being able to keep myself awake. But I'm always on the YouTube. I like the YouTube people. I don't talk to all of you very often, but y'all are great.
So, okay. So, but at the end of the day, if you did see Steph, you would definitely be asking for her number. All right.
Oh, love that.
Okay. Any.
I love you. Can I say that?
Too.
Yeah. Even though you say some bananas things.
That's fine. We can disagree. And that's another really nice thing about Steph, is that she's very unique. She will
just keep complimenting me.
Well, no, it's the truth. I mean, any other person on the left wouldn't show up on this stream. They don't normally. Yeah. I mean, you know, my friend Lila came on, but she's not really political. She's my childhood friend. But like another person on the left, very highly unlikely that they would come on the stream and be like as open to talking about it as you are. And I like doing and I was thinking about it, like, you have to have a backbone to be able to do that. You have to be like, you know, I can associate with anybody or talk to anybody or whatever because I know who I am.
Everybody. But yes, yeah.
Like, in terms of not even associate, but just like have a conversation because I know who I am. This is what I believe in, whatever. And also I treat people like human beings.
Yeah.
I can still love you and have a conversation with you no matter what your belief is. All right. So, okay.
These comments are out of control.
All right.
Send me money. That is not inaccurate. Don't repeat that because I don't want people to know. That's like essentially what I do. That's wild.
That's really funny. Okay. All right.
Y'all are wild. Do less.
Okay. Any other questions for Steph? All right. Okay. Love you guys. See you all tomorrow night. And what else? Oh, and we have a vlog. We have a vlog tomorrow.
Ooh, what's the vlog?
I think it's gonna be me setting up my room.
Yay! Am I in that one? Did I make the cut?
No, you were in the previous one.
Boo, more attention for me.
Yeah, but this is gonna be short too.
The Akio one was fun.
Alex says, "Stay awake and join us, Steph."
Well, thanks, Alex. Keep sending us money. Money.
Mike says, I'm gonna read Mike's because it got censored.
Oh my god.
Mike says, "The smell of pumpkin spice brings me trauma of deranged pumpkins and death, random shit. Good night."
How you doing, Mike? You all right there?
You guys are, dude, some of the comments are so funny. Okay, all right.
Can't hide my emotions. I'm so emotional. Just an emotional woman.
Okay, all right. Have a good night, everybody. See you tomorrow. Bye.